Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever and whenever you are watching and listening right now, I just want to say thank you for clicking this video and tuning into my channel. Today, we will have a discussion from a topic that was given to me by my professor, Mr. Ad Bautista. Before we start, I just want to ask you a question. When you were a child, what do you need to say no? I know that you all have an answer to this question. As we go on to our discussion, you will reflect and realize what you need to say no when you were a child. Let's begin. But before we start, I just want to introduce myself. I am Romer Jan N. Arbilo, a second year BS Ed English student, and I am taking the subject ELT 211, or the Principles and Theories of Language Acquisition and Learning. As part of the requirement for this subject, we're tasked to report a topic that was given to us by our professor. With that, I will be presenting my topic, which is the acquisition of negation. In this discussion, we have our objectives. At the end of this discussion, we'll be able to discuss the 4 stages on the acquisition of negation, and to discuss the meanings of negation in synthesis by Bloom and T studies of negation. Basically, we'll be able to know how a child acquires the concept of negation from stages based on the longitudinal studies conducted by Bloom. Also, you'll know that there are different meanings in this of negation in sentences. And I hope that at the end of this discussion, we will be able to target these 2 objectives that we have. So let us proceed. Okay, we'll begin with a statement. According to Spitz 1957, the ability to say no is the most important achievement of first infancy. So saying no by infants or the children means a lot to them because they can freely express themselves if they refuse, reject, or deny something. It's an achievement for them because they can directly verbalize the things that they don't want to. So may istorya na nila, mga butang na sila ganahan kaysa sa gestures lang. So karon istorya na nila, so it's an achievement for them, something that they can express negation. In fact, by saying no by children for the first time are symbolically expressing an abstract concept. So again, it's an achievement for them, though they are not consciously knowing it. So bisag kita tong bata ata, dili naman to nato ma-remember kung kanus ata na ingon, but achievement na siya kay maka-express na ta, no? Kumbaga, the ability to say no is being brought to life na, no? Stated in there that it was once an abstract concept, but now they can verbalize it or express it symbolically, no? Symbolically expressing. So, meaning, ma-express na nila through words or symbols. Okay, the concept of negation, acquisition of negation, was once studied by Lois Bloom of 1991. She proposed that acquiring negation will really take time for a child. It takes process, no? And it takes some stages before they can express them in sentences using appropriate words and word order. So, gi-state niya dere. This is based on her longitudinal study, where she researched how does a child acquire negation for some periods of time. So again, this is just based on her studies, and this may change now on how a child acquire the concept of negation. So it is just based on her studies. So malay din nato di na ay uban na dili di ay napadela in stages, no? Depende sa research. But her study will be our basis for our discussion. Okay, going back, she proposed the 4 stages on the acquisition of negation. So let us take a look at these 4 stages in the following slides. Okay, in this first stage, negation is usually expressed by the word no, or either all alone or the first word in the utterance. For example, if the parent or the caregiver wants to do something for a child, but the child doesn't like it, the child might say no. Or if the child knows that there's no more cookies, he might say no cookie. If the child doesn't want her dad to comb her hair, she might say no comb hair. No comb hair. No. The expression and our interpretation might differ because it depends on what the child wants to express, or it differs also to our interpretation. No, ingon na siya no cookie, meaning kay wala na cookie. Pero sa atong pagsabot kay dili siya gusto cookie. Right? Something inana. Okay, in the second stage, or in the stage 2, the utterances grow longer and the sentence subject might be included. No? If we take a look at these two examples, we can observe that the child put a subject on his or her utterance unlike the previous stage. Naanay, daddy. Unlike atong sa stage 1, no comb hair lang without the subject or the caregiver or the parents in the first word of utterance, but in the stage 2, nagkataas na ang sentences. Naanay, subject before the negation. Naanay, daddy. Also, sentences expressing rejection or prohibition often use do not. Kita po na ito nga, nag-express na po siya og rejection. Don't or don't touch that. No? Naanay, prohibition. Sinana. Now, in the third stage, or the stage 3, the child used other forms of negatives such as can't, and don't. The auxiliary verbs such as can and do are being used plus the word not. So, can plus the word not, cannot, do plus the word not, do not. Other forms of negatives are being used. Okay, also in this stage, there are no variations of different persons and tenses. Maybe ang iyang always lang I, he, and also always lang po niya gina-utter is past tense lang. Walay variation sa tenses. But what we observe is that the negative elements becomes more complex in the sentence. That's in the third stage. Now, for the fourth and the last stage, the correct form of auxiliary verbs such as do and be are being attached correctly to our negative element, which is the word not. So, take a look at this example. You didn't have supper. She doesn't want it. So, naanay variation po makita nato nga naanay variation sa persons on the and the tenses naanay past tense. Ganina don't naanay karon didn't naanay past tense. So, gagamit na siya pod og do and be nga auxiliary verbs nga gina-attach sa word na not. However, it is stated that even though their language system is by now quite complex, they may still have difficulty with some other features related to negatives, just like the third example. Okay, makita na to, I don't have no more candies. Nagamit na siya og negation, but nagamit na po siya negation pagka human sa have. I don't have no more candies. Don't naganit tapos no more pa, no? The child said don't, but he also said no more, which connotes complex meaning to his or her utterance. So, though ang language system niya becomes complex, but they still have difficulty. So, pero makita na to na ang pag-acquire sa bata o sa negation it requires stages and it takes time. So here are the summary of the stages on the Bloom's acquisition of negation study of 1991. So stage 1, it's purely or morely saying the word no. The stage 2, the subject plus the negative element no. And the stage 3, auxiliary or modal verbs do or can plus the word not. So do, don't, can't, mo lang na siya ang usually gina-utter plus wala pa kayo variations sa different persons or tenses. Also, in the stage 4, lastly, in the stage 4, correct form of auxiliary verbs did, the do and the be verb plus not. And anak po siya variation sa different persons o tenses. Okay, now we're done with the different stages of acquisition of negations. Let's discuss briefly the meanings of negations in sentences based on the study of Bloom 1970. She stated the three meanings of negations, and these are the non-existence. Okay, sa non-existence, something or someone that the child is referring to is not present. Okay, the referent was not evident in the context. Always remember that. Does not exist in the situation. He might say gun, where toys, for examples, were existed, but gilabay. So, gi-express niya, naa was not evident, pero sa man, na-expect siya nga naa, pero wala. Like, inaana nga butang. For example, gilabay na. So, the child expressed it in negation. In the rejection, the referent existent was rejected or opposed by the child. For example, do you want a cookie? Said no. Meaning the referent existed but the child rejected it. The word itself, rejection or rejected. And the other one is, or the last one is the denial. Negative expression claimed that an actual statement or other form was not the case. No, it is something that the child refuse or deny, no, that she or doesn't own. From the word itself, deny, denial or deny is something that the child deny. Like for this example, is this your toy? No. So these are based on the Bloom study, where she found out that the children emerged these three meanings of negations: the non-existence and non-existence, rejection, and denial. Again, this is just based on the study of Bloom. However, another study was conducted by Roy P. of 1980 on his study the development of negation in early child language. In his study, he expands the Bloom's list of the meanings of negations. However, some of the meanings were just similar to Bloom. No? He stated the four meanings such as rejection negatives, disappearance negative, truth functional negatives, and self-prohibition negatives. So rejection negatives, this is just the same with the Bloom's rejection. Disappearance, also, this is just the same with Bloom's non-existence. And the truth negatives, this is also just the same with Bloom's denial. But he added the self-prohibition negatives. The child approaches a previously forbidden object or begins doing something that was not allowed and then expresses and negative. For example, if the child forbids to touch the ball but the child insists to touch it and said no, the child said and express it in negation. So that's self-prohibition negatives. Basically, the P and the Bloom's list of the meanings of negation is just the same, but P expands it in his study. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something today, and here are the references of this presentation. Basically, this is just based on the study or researches. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening. God bless, stay safe, and stay sane. Thank you so much. And if you have questions, clarifications, or suggestions, you can freely comment in the below. Thank you.